On the late evening of April 14th, 1912, the Titanic hit an iceberg. One of the first-class passengers on board was Margaret Brown. She was a take-charge kind of woman, and that's exactly what she did that night. She came up on deck. She could have easily gotten into a lifeboat herself because it was the rule of the sea was women and children first. Instead, she made sure others got in their lifeboats. In fact, she had to be pushed into a lifeboat herself. The Titanic sent out a radio distress signal, which was picked up by the RMS Carpathia, which was a few hours away. And fortunately for the people on board Titanic, Captain Arthur Henry Rostron was in command of the Carpathia.
Captain Rostron faced incredible danger, racing through the North Atlantic to answer the call. And he faced very similar ice fields that had struck Titanic.
I don't think they could have had a better captain than Captain Rostron to get that ship out there. He had been at sea almost all his life. He was barking out orders one after the other, which in hindsight were the perfect orders in order to make that ship get to its intended destination through some very serious and through some very risky ice flows.
Captain Rostron had actually left New York April 11th on the Carpathia. And it's one of those fates of history that he happened to be in the area when Titanic struck the iceberg.
Meanwhile, back on Lifeboat 6, Margaret Brown was taking charge as usual. And not only did she row herself, but she had other women on the lifeboat row. A very unusual situation for 1912.
You can imagine Molly Brown sitting in that lifeboat number 6, looking back and watching the Titanic sink into the sea and hearing the screams and seeing the dead bodies floating. It must have been an incredibly emotional experience for her.
Just as the sun was coming up on the morning of April 15th, 1912, the survivors in those lifeboats saw their salvation. Their salvation was Captain Rostron of the Carpathia, and they were all rescued that morning. The Carpathia left the wreck site on April 15th. During that time, there was a committee of survivors formed in order to honor the Carpathia's captain and its officers and crew for the heroic efforts they made in rescuing these survivors. Although Molly Brown was not elected the chairman of that particular committee, as a take-charge kind of woman, that's exactly what she did. She took charge. She organized the striking of medals to be given out to the captain and to the crew. And most significantly, she also organized the production of a beautiful, large, silver loving cup, a very unique item to be given to a very unique person in honor of what he did, and that was Captain Rostron.
Margaret Brown had this cup lovingly inscribed to read, "Presented to Captain A.H. Rostron, R&R Commander of the RMS Carpathia, in grateful recognition and appreciation of his heroism and efficient service in the rescue of survivors of the Titanic on April 15, 1912, and of the generous and sympathetic treatment he accorded us on his ship." This loving cup is extremely famous and well known, but it hasn't been seen by the public very much in the last 100 years. And so now we have it, and we're really proud to be able to auction it in 2014.